Obviously, you've watched GE for a long time. You were a shareholder for quite a number of years, from 2008 through when you sold those shares that were at $27 at that point. Big changes. They're restating earnings for a couple of years and talking about some different accounting standards that have been put into place, but it does sound like they are changing the way they account for some long-term contracts.
It sounds that way. I mean, I haven't read anything. I've just been sitting here, but it sounds like they are changing that. When you build a ship or something like that over 5 years, not that they're building ships, but you do have ways of accounting for sort of the in-process activity.
Sure.
And companies can be quite aggressive in that. They can be quite conservative in that. And I don't know anything specific about General Electric.
You would understand John Flannery coming in and wanting to
clean house.
Yeah, and make sure that he's doing things his way,
Sure.
Going through the entire process.
Sure. If I were brought in to run GE, which they never would do, and they'd be wise not to, but there'd be a lot to get your mind around. I mean, from the old insurance contracts to these long-term contracts and service contracts, and there's just a lot on your plate. And so the fact that you don't have it all in place the first day, or the first week, or the first month, I don't blame anybody for that. There's things to learn with something that complicated and widespread.
Okay. One thing that we got a lot of questions that people wrote in about are variations on forms of corporate social responsibility. I'll start with one of the questions that came in. This is from Tamanori Ishikawa, who wrote two topical questions. Does Berkshire invest or own gun manufacturers? And then number two, actuarially, does gun ownership have an effect on property and casualty premiums? And these there were a lot of questions in this vein that came in, just given the headlines that have been out there about what's been happening with school shootings.
Yeah.
But broader than that, just corporate social responsibility overall, and some of the things Larry Fink's talked about.
Yeah, we don't own any gun manufacturers, but I have not issued any edict, for example, to the two managers that run money besides me at Berkshire, that they can't own stock in gun manufacturers. They can own stock in gun manufacturers. They can own stock in liquor manufacturers. We do own stock in Diageo and have for a long time, which is a liquor manufacturer. And so we haven't, but to my knowledge, we don't. I know we don't own any, happen to own any gun manufacturers. And the second point was...
The second point was, from an actuarial perspective, does gun ownership have an effect on property and casualty
really
premiums? It's not something that weighs in.
There might be some very weird personal policy that you might conceivably, but in terms of standard business, no. I don't know of any. I don't know of any time it's come up in the years I've been in the insurance business.
There is a movement from Larry Fink at BlackRock and from others who are kind of stepping into this, saying that they would like to have more of an impact on the companies that they are investing in, that they would like to have maybe a little more say in what's happening. It's an arena that can get pretty fraught with potential missteps, though, because by taking a stand, you're potentially alienating up to half of your customers. So where do you come down?
Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, but I've been cheering for what was going on at Wells Fargo, if I'd known about it years ago. But Wells Fargo, we do lots of business with them. They made a big mistake, and some others that flowed out of the big mistake. But Berkshire's made mistakes, and I got involved in Solomon when they made a mistake. You will not find any large company that doesn't have some problems of one sort or another. I mean, and the best defense is a hotline, and we have found out more things that have been wrong at Berkshire through the hotline.
But I think this is a little different than finding out cases of fraud or wrongdoing or somebody doing things that are wrong. This is a case of investing companies, of banking companies, potentially getting in and saying, we don't agree with a particular group, be it the NRA, be it we want to take a stand on immigration, something along those lines. You do see more and more CEOs who are kind of wading into the political arena and making their views known. You're somebody who's not shied away from talking about who you vote for and who you support.
No, in terms of politics, I have not put my politics in a blind trust. On the other hand, I don't speak for Berkshire in doing that. Berkshire, to my knowledge, Berkshire, the parent company, never made any contributions to politicians, and I don't believe that imposing my views on 370,000 employees and 1 million shareholders. I mean, they don't. I'm not their nanny on that. And if I worked for Hillary, but I don't know who our managers worked for or voted for, and so I think you have to be pretty careful if you're saying, we're not going to fly on this airline because of that, or we're not going to use this railroad because of that, in terms of social stuff, because you'll find something. I mean, I admire enormously Walmart and Costco. They sell cigarettes too. I think cigarettes are good. We actually distribute between the manufacturer through our McLean company to Walmart and 7-Elevens and all kinds of people cigarettes. I think it's a mistake to start getting personal views and trying to impose them on an organization.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of that just over the last couple of weeks since the last school shooting. And there have been some companies.
Well, I've got views on gun laws, but I don't think they're Berkshire's views.
And so you don't think it's something that corporate boards should be talking about?
I think you should be pretty careful before the company takes a big political opinion and something the society has decided that they say, well, we're going to have a different view. Now, I also think people individually should very much express their views. I mean, I think what the kids are doing there is very admirable, but I don't think that Berkshire should say we're not going to do business with people that own guns. I think it'd be ridiculous.
Okay, let's talk about some of the holdings that we mentioned before. At the end of the last block, we were talking about Apple, which is the stock, according to the filings that we've seen, that you've been buying most frequently and most heavily. There are a lot of questions that have come in on Apple, and people want to know why you're doubling or tripling down on this stock at this point.
They may want to know, but I'm not going to tell them. I mean, they can look at our actions, and we have to report those every 3 months. But we're not in the investment advisory business.
Why do you like
it's proprietary. The views, those are proprietary in effect to Berkshire. They belong to the Berkshire shareholders.
Just in terms of one question that came in, there was someone who was asking about, you've long touted the stocks that you've bought into by drinking Coca-Cola or eating at Dairy Queen or doing all of these different things to talk about the stocks and the companies that Berkshire owns, but you still have your flip phone. Wanted to know if you were ever going to get a smartphone, an Apple phone.
Yeah, well, Tim Cook's asked me that. Well, the answer is just I'm out of touch. But I tell Tim that as long as I haven't gotten one, the market's not saturated. I mean, the day I buy one, there's probably nobody left after that.
We want to talk through a couple of the other stocks that you all hold too. One question that came in from Kraft Heinz was a question about the announcement that Kraft Heinz just put out. This came from Ivan the K. He says, is this a sign that Mr. Buffett is scaling back his direct participation in the business? He was referring to the headline, Kraft Heinz reports retirement of Warren Buffett from board.
That's I wasn't on any outside board till the Heinz deal came along first. And then the 3G, our partners, asked if I would go on for a while, and I said fine. But there's 5 meetings a year. It's about a day and a half for a meeting. I mean, you go in the previous afternoon and you think, so it's really a day and a half. So if you have 5 meetings, that's 7.5 days a year. We have 2 other people on the board from Berkshire, and the truth is I'll talk to the 3G fellows the same way. So it doesn't change anything about it. It just saves me 7.5 days a year, and I don't want to be on any outside boards. I mean, it's time consuming, and I haven't got that much time.
But it doesn't indicate any
Zero.
of a declining interest in the
We're
business.
not going to change a share. We've got Greg Abel and Tracy Britt-Cool on the board. We could have put somebody additional ourselves, but Alexander Van Damme is going on there. I know him. He's got a huge investment in the company. I love the fact that he's going to be a much better director than I am, and he likes to travel.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.